You're listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with Aaliyah Lay, a podcast for actors and improvisers with interviews from entertainment industry experts.
All right, today's guest is Josh Murray. He is an actor. He debuted nationally in a TV movie, Killing Lincoln, as assassin Lewis Powell, executive produced by Ridley Scott and narrated by Tom Hanks. It set a record in viewership on the National Geographic Channel. Since then, Josh has appeared in NBC's Revolution and Taxi Brooklyn, as well as the feature film adaptation of David Baldacci's book, Wish You Well, starring Mackenzie Foy, Burstyn, and Josh Lucas. I hope I'm pronouncing people's names correctly. If not, it's okay. Oh, good. He has also worked as an actor for and or with multiple branches of the military and various law enforcement agencies. That's pretty cool. I totally see you like that. All right, Josh most recently appeared in Tribeca, Official Selection Inheritance, starring Lily Collins and Simon Pegg, and is currently recurring on General Hospital. His latest project is a self-produced feature, Gym Rat, playing an ex-con fitness freak with delusions of being the next Mr. Olympia. I love it. Josh, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, Leah.
So today, our interview is going to be about your success journey, your success story. And just to be clear, the definition of success is based on Earl Nightingale. This is a repeat for everyone who's already listened. But the definition of success is the progressive realization towards a worthy ideal. So that's what you're doing. What is I feel like you're already doing that. Plus, you have all these achievements, which is like a bonus, but you're already making progress, right? So you're already successful. But what is your currently, let's first start, what is your goal?
I think purpose is so critical for every person, but especially as an artist, because that's part of our task or our job is really exploring and reflecting on the purpose of life, and I think that purpose is something that you uncover and discover over time, more deeply and more fully. For me, the purpose for acting, originally, it was more of a pastime, more of an escape. It was more of just a personal challenge initially. I think I was drawn to the fact that there was something that was hidden in acting and actors that was missing in my life. And there was also something incredibly scary and challenging and out of reach for me when I tried acting, that I was this is something that I just can't let go of. And I have to dig into that. And I have to overcome this. It was almost like a fear, but also an inability, that I was well, I'm not going to settle until I feel like I can come to grips with it, grapple with it. I wasn't even thinking about a career or success. I was just thinking being able to have the freedom to show up in that place and have the courage to show up in that space. And in many ways, my journey as an actor and my definition of success for myself has continued to be partly an evolution of that for myself, where I want to be able to suspend the fear and the thinking and the inhibition to be myself, even if it's an imaginary circumstance, and to fully embrace that, to be present, to be in the moment, to be fully alive in those situations. And it's something that completely eluded me for many years, and something that I'm starting to come to grips with. But I think, I can't remember who it was, but someone was sharing about how Bill Murray was saying something similar along those lines at this age, in this advanced state in his career, that he was just looking to be more in the moment and more present. after all these years. And so it's like something that is like almost like a state of perfection, I suppose, that we're reaching for, that we never can fully realize, or at least not for very long.
Right.
For me, like overcoming those personal demons and obstacles and challenges and self-sabotage to be able to really exist in the moment and to be free and fully alive is something for myself that I strive for, and that's my definition of success, regardless of whether the critics think, oh, he's a good actor, or regardless of whether I get some like level of esteem or honor or opportunity. Like that is something that I work on and strive for regardless, and that I know I can succeed in ultimately, regardless of who gives me permission to do what. Within that, though, is also like that exploration of truth, both in a deeper philosophical, spiritual sense, as well as just the reality of the imaginary world, or even a real world from times past that I'm stepping into. And for me, like I don't just want to make the audience like have suspension of belief. Like I want to be able to inhabit that reality for my own experience too. And I believe that the more I can do that, not like losing my mind or like losing grip on reality, but like in the moment to be able to really embrace and live out that experience, like to let go of that control. That's the success for me. And I believe that the more I can do that, the more it will allow other people to go on that journey too.
Yeah. That's great. Going back a little bit, like when you first got into the acting, and you said it was a hobby, you weren't even considering it as a career. And when you touched it, you realized there was something in there that was missing, that was a challenge. Did you want to share what some of those challenges were and how you overcame them?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for one thing, I mean, the initial thing when my first experience was an audition for a short film, which I did end up booking a small part in. But going into that,
what got you into it in the first place, though? Like, I'm just going to interrupt real quick and say, like, what is it? Like, it wasn't even on your radar. So, like, what made you go, hey, I'm going to audition for this short film? And then you're like, holy crap. But got you there in the first place?
So there was a time for a few years leading up to that where I always was passionate about films. I was always just had deeper appreciation for great cinema, and my dad was as well. And so he introduced me to great classics, like Seven Samurai and John Ford Westerns and stuff like that from an early age. So I always loved the cinema and like more adult, mature films from a young age. There was a period of time, a few years, where I was really getting behind the scenes, like bonuses in films and like seeing how films are made, which was fascinating, reading more about independent film. So I was becoming like aware of like this reality of like, movies and acting isn't just exists on some faraway planet where like these specialized people do it and it's like completely inaccessible. But also I was like in a place of, I think I was going through a very hard time physically because I had a lot of physical health problems, and I was also in a bad place emotionally, unhealthy too. And I didn't really know, wasn't aware of it or like understood it, but I knew there was something off, and I knew that there was something about actors that they had a level of like realization of who they were that was completely missing, and it was that lack of being present and a lack of being available and open, but also like this, because I was experiencing a lot of pain with my health issues, I was having to give up a lot of my hobbies like fitness. I couldn't really do many things anymore, so I was looking for something to do that was like low impact, that wasn't going to be strenuous physically. But I also was having this awakening, which I didn't realize at the time, but it was really that need to like connect with my soul and my heart. And there were certain films I was watching during that period that really awoken something in me that I had pushed away and disconnected from. And it's really bizarre this one stands out, but the film Collateral, Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, was kind of like the last ignition point. And it's bizarre in the sense that Tom Cruise plays sort of a sociopathic hitman, and not like really an inspirational character.
Yeah.
But there was something so real and immediate to me about it that really stuck with me. And I was like, that experience when I watched that film was so deeply impactful to me that I was like, there's something in that like is missing and that I need to stay connected to. And for some reason it was like, I just need to try acting. Like that was like just what came to my mind, is like, I need to act to like find this and be a part of this more. So it wasn't this 2-hour fleeting thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I started researching where are films or what's acting things in the DC area where I was living. And there was this short film audition happening that I found through a local community.
Yeah.
And I just went. That's kind of the backstory. But when I got there, I just remember being so petrified that my like hands were locking up and I was like, couldn't breathe. And I felt like I was going to suffocate to death. And I was like, so like bound up and wound up by it, that when I went in, it was like, it felt like a miracle that I could even say the lines. And afterward, you know, I felt like I had faced a huge battle and like a demon with confronting that and stepping into it anyway. But also at the same time, even though I was kind of elated to hear, oh, they wanted me to be a part of it, you know, they thought I did a good job and all that. But it was also this realization, like, wow, there's this huge like weakness and shortcoming and like challenge in myself that causes me to be so overpowered by like going up in front of people and just showing myself. That's like, I don't know what that is, but I have to uncover and I have to figure out I'm not going to back away from this challenge. When I was a kid, I used to have a really bad fear of heights. And I remember there was times where I would be on a tree or standing on the ledge of a house. And I would be like, so I knew it wasn't super dangerous, but it was like terrifying to me. And I would force myself to like climb down or jump off of these, you know, heights, because I was like, I don't want to let this control me. And I think it was a little bit of that too, of like, this is really intimidating, so I'm going to do it just because I don't want to be intimidated by it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was your own personal like will almost to go into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny to me because I've had times after I've, you know, started doing acting professionally where people have been like, oh, you're such a natural, you're so talented. And like, I'm like, you know, thank you. I appreciate what you're trying to say. But sometimes I wish I could inject them with a little bit of more understanding that like, I'm not a natural. It wasn't easy. And like, to me, that I can succeed on any level in this space, given how hard and inaccessible it was for me initially. Like, I'm already succeeding because like I'm able to do this at all.
And you faced your tremendous fear and continued to grow and progress, right? That's amazing. I think that in itself. Okay, we're done. Our interview's over. That was inspiring. That was it. I'm kidding. We still have a little bit of time. So. Yeah. I think that is so great. All right. So then you did that and you even booked your first one, which is amazing, right? Now, as you progress, how did you progress? Like, first you faced it in that first audition. That was amazing. And then you booked it, which was amazing. Then how did you handle from there? You still had the fear, right?
Yeah.
So how did you, what kind of things did you do to help yourself get over some additional challenges? Like, you know?
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah. So basically later that year, I had opportunity to audition for the lead in this like no budget feature film, like volunteer movie in my area. And they asked me to play the male protagonist in the film, the male lead character. And it was, you know, a straight to DVD very, low quality. But I also knew that like I was completely green. And when I started doing it, I was like, okay, it kind of hit me like they're going to show this somewhere, going to be released. People are going to see this. And I have no idea what I'm doing. And so it's like, I need to start really taking this seriously, in the sense of like, I need to like get some training. So I started pursuing some acting classes. It's really sparked this need both in doing the film, and then after I finished the film, this desire to like figure out like, what am I supposed to be learning? What is acting? What is acting training? What is it that I need to learn?
Mm-hmm.
And that caused me to embark on like a 1 year, I would say, exploratory phase where I wasn't even thinking that I was learning how to act. I was just learning what I needed to learn. And so I watched all the Inside the Actor Studio interviews and interviews with all my favorite actors. And I read books and I went to workshops and I went to New York. I just started to consume as much information as I could to try to find my bearings, to really work on understanding, like, because there's so many conflicting advice and information coming at me.
Right.
And then during that time, I think is when I discovered my first real acting teacher, Carol Fox Prescott. She started to kind of resonate with me in a way that started to make sense of like, what is it, this journey that I'm on, what is it about? And it was very inspiring and it was very motivating and uplifting. And that was kind of when I latched onto something of like, okay, this is what I need to be pursuing. I'm gonna hold on to that thread.
That took you about a year of just researching what it meant to be an actor. I so find that so interesting because the way you went about it was to learn and learn and learn, and then you got all this conflicting information, which is so true, right? From the industry, but then finding someone who you really connected with, and that sparked your reason, right? Like deeper reason into moving forward in a more serious way. I find that really interesting because sometimes, actors just go, many actors go, okay, what do I need to do first? Headshot. I need to get an agent. I need to take classes. But you research what would be best for you, Yeah.
Yeah. I always shake my head when I get those questions of people who are like, yeah, I want to become an actor. Like, how do I get an agent? Or like, what kind of headshots do I get? They always ask the questions that are like irrelevant. And I almost don't even know how to respond to when people ask those kind of questions. It's like, because you're asking the wrong questions and you have the wrong motivation. So I don't even really know how to help you except to say like, find what acting is and become an artist and find training, and don't just take acting classes but like go on a journey of discovery of what acting is and what being a human being is, because that's really what acting is study of being human. It's being a professional human being, as I like to say.
Yeah. I think we don't hear enough about that, right? And for the general population, it doesn't seem like that's the general noise people hear, right? And so I love that you shared that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then from there, now we're getting close to time. We only have about 9 minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time. We're going to jump forward. This was wonderful. We're jumping forward now to what, if you want to share, like, first of all, amazing that you're recurring on General Hospital. I didn't watch it, but some pictures I saw, your character is not a nice guy, quote, nice guy, right?
Yeah, well, he's an Australian mercenary.
Yes.
And he's a bit brutal.
Yes.
I rough people up and keep them in prison. So
yeah.
What
are your current goals right now, though? Like, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
As the mercenary character, right? Like, if you want to share, you don't have to. Like, how are you able to access those parts of yourself? And like you said, working fully on really being, right? alive as that person, as real as possible in the moment. And separate yourself when you're done to who you are currently. Is there a concern ever of possibly losing, quote, reality? Because it's in all of us, right? So
yeah.
It's kind of a deep question. You don't have to answer that one.
I think, I mean, it hasn't been a concern for me for the most part. I think that when you are training yourself to go in certain directions that are more of a dark space or more of a an evil space, it can be very difficult. Like if it's something very different from yourself, to bend your kind of perspective and behavior and mindset in a very different direction. And I can certainly feel kind of obsessed about like overcoming that block or that challenge to doing it, and just like forcing my way into really grasping onto inhabiting something. I think if it carries on for a long period of time, like especially if you're doing a long running character or a play or something, and you are letting it seep into, like, I think there can be a power and also temptation to kind of perpetually work on it. And if you're doing that for an extended period of time, then it does start to overshadow like your other ways of living, your normal everyday life. And then, I think it can seep into who you are. You start to train yourself, not just as a character, but as a human being, to be in a direction that you don't want to represent. And I think there can definitely be a risk there. I think that, Liam Neeson said something that was pretty cogent, was that at the end of the day, he hangs his character up like a coat. He said, "I've tried the other way, and therein lies madness." And I think that when you don't have like an idea of separation, that like this is the time working on the character, and then I'm putting it aside and I'm letting that go, then you can start to blur the lines of like what is reality.
Right.
And maybe you don't lose your mind, but you lose a little bit of control of like who you are, in the sense that it seeps into your everyday life.
Yeah, into your possibly subconscious thoughts or behaviors. It could seep in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The acting inspiration icon that I admire the most is Daniel Day-Lewis. In terms of his work, is astonishing.
Yeah.
I've always been so inspired by him, and I do kind of model myself just a touch in the direction that he does, of wanting to fully flesh out and to really embrace the reality of things as much as possible. However, he does it for so long and so fully and so completely that he said he has a nervous breakdown when he finishes a film, and I think that is definitely unhealthy and taking it too far. And so I definitely am conscious of having a balance, that like, just because it could make a better performance doesn't mean it's how I want to live as a person.
Right. Right. It might, there's a line between your art and your own personal health, possibly.
Yeah. And it's a balance. It's a balance.
Cool. Sorry, got deep there. That's some part of it, but okay, cool. We're just going with it. Now that you're here today, 2021, towards the end of 2021, what is your current goal that you're working on now?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing on my horizon right now professionally is finishing my feature Gym Rat, because I'm not only playing the protagonist but also producing it. Yeah, so that's definitely a stretch and a learning process, and a lot of new challenges. And that's the thing that I'm most committed to bringing home and finishing and showing to the world. Other than that, I really want to do more heroic protagonist characters. I got to do one in a film called The Missing Twin this year, which will be coming out soon.
Nice.
was fun to do something. He's got a bit of action, but he's also a family man, and he's got a good character. I played I don't play all villains, but I played a lot of villains, and it's fun, and I enjoy doing that side of things. But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing more, like I said, heroic protagonists, not flawless people, but people that that embody more of like what I want to emulate and want to promote. It's something. And I also have a long-term goal of playing a certain privateer, because I love.
What's a privateer?
A privateer is sort of like a cross between a naval a naval officer and a pirate. So they back in the colonial period, they would basically give people letters of marque to war against an opposing country. And you could basically have freedom to piracy in service to the crown. Anyway, it was my favorite historical period. I love sailing.
Yeah.
I love all ships, and that if you've seen the film Master and Commander, that is an example of a privateer. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. For Gym Rat, so definitely we want to be watching The Missing Twins. That should be coming out.
Yeah.
21 or 2022, because that's
we should be releasing the distribution air date soon. I don't know exactly what date's coming, but probably end of this year, early next.
Okay, great. And then the Gym Rat you're working on, any ETA approximately when that might be out so that people can keep an eye out for that?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm targeting finishing the film this winter. That's the plan, and we'll have distribution deals after worked on after that. But they can follow Gym Rat on a Gym Rat movie on Instagram or Facebook to get the latest news.
Yes, and that's Gym Rat, GYMRAT.
Yes.
Okay, and then can we follow you too? Where do you want us to follow you, harass you,
yeah.
stalk you?
I'm mostly active on Instagram, Josh Murray Actor.
Okay.
So if you're looking up Josh Murray Actor on Instagram, you can also find me on Facebook and Twitter with that username.
Great. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for being.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Great talking to you.
And thank you for listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with me, Aaliyah Lay. I would love to hear from you, so email me, aaliyahklei@gmail.com, ALYAKLEI@gmail.com.